Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacoby, not Dr. Gravitz. I'm a resident at Shiva Medical Center on the Surgery B department, and I would like to present a case, an interesting case of a young female who was operated in our department. So this is a 33-year-old female with unremarkable past medical history, no family history of malignancy. Past surgical history includes 2 cesarean section. This patient was during her 3rd pregnancy and during a routine ultrasound on her 3rd trimester, an 8 centimeters mass was found that was suspected to be at that time a uterine myoma. During her elective cesarean section, a 15 centimeters right retroperitoneal mass was identified. The mass was separated completely from the uterus. At that point, the decision was to take a biopsy from the mass and to continue the surgery and complete the delivery that was uneventful. Biopsy, as you can see, was low-grade spindle cell tumor. And the morphological was suggestive for desmoid type fibromatosis. 2 days afterwards, the patient continues and complete. Just a second. Yeah. 2 days afterwards, the patient completes CAT scan of the abdominal and the pelvis. And over the CAT scan, you see 2 findings. One is the mass, 9 or 10 centimeters anterior to the internal iliac vessels. It compressing the cecum and it unseparated from the right ovary. In addition, there was a second solid lesion in the perianal area, posterior to the anus, lesion 2 on 2 centimeters. At that point, there was a question what to do right now, how to complete the follow-up, the workup of this patient. I think that this is a good time to ask the audience here, what do you think is the next right step to do here? I'll just present you before the CAT scan, okay? It's a little bit hard to see, but you can see. Where's the pointer? Okay. The retroperitoneal mass you can see over here. This is the obviously enlarged uterus since it was 2 days after the cesarean section. Okay, also the coronal section of the mass, the uterus, and the compression over the cecum. And here you can see the perianal lesion over the posterior right aspect. So what do you think is the right workup to do now? To continue? Okay. Okay. So this patient was discussed over a multiple disciplinary meeting, and the decision was to follow up on her for a few months and to repeat the imaging as to see whether there was an dynamics in the size of the tumor, I mean the intra-abdominal mass. And as you can see, just I will mention that the physical examination that was also important. The abdomen was soft, it was not distended, and the mass was obviously palpable but was non-tender. We also completed a perirectal exam that presented this solid lesion, and there was a suspicion that it was involving both the external and the internal anal sphincter. So 3 months later, we completed a repeated MRI of the abdominal and pelvis, and you can see that in the MR the mass got larger. Okay, got larger. It presses the cecum hardly. You can see the enhancements over the contrast phase, also on the coronal section. However, the perianal lesion wasn't significantly changing the size. So we decided in this time to complete further workup that included transrectal ultrasound. The transrectal ultrasound confirmed that there was a penetration of the external anal sphincter and there was involvement of the internal anal sphincter. We obviously completed gastroscopy that was unremarkable. On colonoscopy there was external pressure over the ascending and colon and the cecum. And maybe this is another time to ask you again, what do you think is the right decision to take now? Whether to resect the tumor, maybe resect both of the findings, maybe to continue and follow up on her.
Well, you know that the main tumor is desmoid, the big one. But you don't have the smaller one defined.
Right.
And we know that desmoid is very rarely multifocal. Can happen, but it's very rare. So it's likely that you've got a circumstance where you have two different histologies, and in order to plan appropriately, you have to biopsy the other one and find out what it is as well.
Okay, so what do you think, what is the right time to biopsy here? During an operation, before?
Now.
I would comment, I would agree with what you're saying, and I think this could or should have been done earlier on. I mean, another biopsy from this perianal region, because it's unlikely to be related to the desmoid. And as for the desmoid, I think it is acceptable to decide to follow on desmoid and see if it regresses spontaneously or unchanged. And alternatively, it could have been treated medically by probably tamoxifen and indomethacin, and you could have gotten a response or stabilization. At this stage of the game, I think that this desmoid probably has to be removed because it's too big and it's about to cause vascular problems.
The reality, though, is that you actually already have followed it. So you've already performed watchful waiting during the time that you were waiting for her uterus to return to normal size and recovering from the sequelae of the cesarean. The real problem with what you're suggesting, Chaim, is that responses to anti-inflammatories like Sulindac, anti-estrogen preparations like Teremapine, they run about a 30-35% response rate. So the good news is they're very easily tolerated. The bad news is they don't really do much for the patient, and you've already had this period of watchful waiting. So you have to define what you're going to do with the desmoid, but before you can do that, you need to know about the other lesion.
Oh, that's definite. I just intended to say that while it was decided to do just watchful or whatever, it could have been treated up to this stage with either tamoxifen rather than just watch it.
The idea was not, I wouldn't call it watchful waiting because the decision was to take it out. It's up front, you see a big desmoid, I think should be taken out. Just the patient wanted this a short period of time to get used to a new baby, to recover from the cesarean, and these were the 3 months that we waited. So.
Okay, so we decided to take the patient to operation, and during the operation to take a true-cut biopsy of the perianal lesion. So this patient was referred to an operation on July 15. The patient began with cystoscopy and insertion of bilateral uteral catheter. During the exploratory laparotomy, a 20 centimeters encapsulated solid mass was identified. It was strongly adhered both to the right cecum and the right ovary. And the operation included excision of the whole mass, including right colectomy with side-to-side anastomosis and right oophorectomy. Of course, there was also the true-cut biopsy that was taken from the perianal area.
The disadvantage with that approach is that had you biopsied the perineal lesion before surgery, you would have known definitively what it was. Now you're relying on the possibility that you either won't know because a frozen section may or may not be reliable, or it could be something else that might have potentially affect your decision about removing the desmoid at that all of which could have been avoided had you simply gotten the true cut biopsy under image direction prior to surgery, and then before going to the operating room you would have known what the other lesion is.
Okay. The post-op course was unremarkable, and the patient was discharged home on POD6. I would like to present the pathological report of the abdominal mass, mesenchymal neoplasm composed of hypocellular and slightly hypercellular spindle cell tumor. Immunostains were positive for vimentin, slightly positive for beta-catenin, and many positive from calpanin. And it was concluded that the morphological picture and immunostains are most compatible with desmoid intra-abdominal tumor. As to do with the perianal mass, the pathological picture was most compatible with a giant cell tumor. Seems, as you said before, to seem different from the abdominal mass tumor. We decided again to compete and to continue and follow up on this patient both clinically and radiologically. And a few months ago she was in our outpatient clinics. She's asymptomatic and feeling well. I will just mention that we sent the slides of the perianal biopsy for a revision to see whether it's something that will come else.
The problem was the perianal lesion is what the desmoid was simple. It's a big desmoid found at cesarean section. It's not something that is very uncommon. We didn't know exactly what to do with this perianal lesion. It was not easy to check the patient or to biopsy it without anesthesia. It was very painful and tender. So we decided to separate. We did not plan on frozen section at the time of operation. It's obvious that it is very difficult to reach a conclusion because, as you saw in the transrectal ultrasound, and also it was very obvious by palpation that this lesion was penetrating the sphincter. So surgery here is quite complicated and might compromise her continence. So we decided first let her get rid of the big desmoid and then think what to do with this, let's say, giant cell tumor. So now here we are. She recovered. She has this tumor which does not grow. It's already 6 months, and we are asking therefore what to do. Is it something with malignant potential? Is it something we should leave? Because to operate it might compromise the continence. Help.
If it was a carcinoma, you'd operate it. If it was a carcinoma, you'd operate it.
If it was a carcinoma.
Of course.
So even though it's a benign lesion, it can still progress locally and further compromise. Again, just to be the devil's advocate, if you had known that it was a giant cell tumor up front, you might have prepared her to have both lesions resected with the same general anesthetic. Now, to resect it, you're exposing her to a second general anesthetic, probably not a problem, but still, nonetheless, it's a whole other operation. Maybe she wants to wait for that one too.
Well, I don't think that the second operation is a big deal nowadays. We don't worry too much about the second general anesthesia. Sometimes recovery of 2 operations are difficult. This one is a totally different body region, so this would not be a problem. The question is, do we need to remove it at all?
I have a question regarding the diagnosis of a giant cell tumor. I'm not sure I know what exactly is a giant cell tumor, but it seems to be a benign lesion, and the truth says that it infiltrates the sphincters. This is not the behavior of a benign lesion, so I would maybe question the diagnosis and try to biopsy it again, because I think the clinical presentation and the sonographic presentation, it doesn't fit. Something is wrong. Benign lesion should not infiltrate the sphincters.
I'm not sure about this. Benign lesion can infiltrate, like a desmoid, for example.
Benign from the point of view that it doesn't have metastatic potential, but it can be very aggressive locally. A giant cell tumor of soft parts is not a friend.
have seen metastasizing giant cell tumors.
And they can.
And I've always been struck by those cases where they're called benign metastasizing giant cell tumors. I don't understand that concept, what's benign about the metastasis. So I would be concerned about this. Frankly, I'd have been much more comfortable following the desmoid tumor and taking this out and then trying hormonal therapy or other treatments for the desmoid. But I would
Which comes back to my original point about biopsying both up front, so you know before you ever enter the patient what's going on.
But I would have to say I don't know. We didn't see a lot of pictures of the giant cell tumor, but this might be one where I think about different approaches, such as a Kratsky type of transsacral approach, if that was feasible. I can't say that based on looking at the scans and knowing that would be a possibility, but at least I'd be thinking along those type of lines.
We don't even need a Kratsky approach. It can be excised from a perineal approach. It's quite low. You can palpate it, but with a resection of part of the cervix.
Well, that's the whole point, and so, potentially being ready to swing a gracilis flap, to reinforce the sphincter function, you can't make those decisions intraoperatively. That's something that the patient needs to know about beforehand and so forth. It's a bigger operation.
Is there continence now, perfect continence?
Yeah, but it will not be. I'm a little bit concerned about the location. Like Truss, it said that it was involving not only the internal and external sphincters, but the puborectalis as well.
Yeah.
She's got a problem.
Posteriorly, there's no puborectalis posteriorly, but probably it's on the right side.
Yeah.
She has a problem right now, but you can assume that the problem will get worse with time.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going a little bit.
Even from the point of view of continence,
about the approach.
it's preferable to resect it earlier than just waiting for it to grow, and then the chances for compromising continence will be greater.
To resect it now would involve, if you go posteriorly or pararectally, doesn't matter. It's actually involving the pelvic floor. So it's quite deep if it's really involving the puborectalis. So if you do this in reconstruction, I'm not sure if a gracilis flap would be appropriate at this stage, but just primary reconstruction of the sphincters, it's a quite complicated proctologic operation. I'm wondering if you shouldn't do a colostomy for best, because it might decrease the chances of breaking down the primary repair. It's a complicated surgery.
Were I responsible for her, I would assemble a team that would consist of a surgical oncologist, a colorectal surgeon, and a reconstructive surgeon, on the principle that the biggest ego in the room is the tumor.
So the blood thickens and she's going to get a big operation. But you think it should be taken out and not followed up?
Correct.
It should be taken out. And so you should consider a protective colostomy for that.
I'll give you follow-up next week. Serious.
I just wanted to say that when we encounter these not very common tumors, when we go to the literature, we only find the ones which have been dissected. And nobody reports on the ones which have not been dissected, and we don't really know the natural history of these. So it's just a comment.
Yeah, but in this day and age, you can access expertise anywhere in the world through the internet. Just send us emails.
Question? With all the new biological treatments, is there anything that's appropriate for giant cell tumors?
Giant cell tumors of the bone, you have denosumab, which is that thing. But I don't know about giant cell tumor.
There's a whole spectrum of these, the solitary fibrous tumors, a whole spectrum of these aggressive neoplasms, and it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if when you got the whole thing out, the pathologist called it something else. We used to call a lot of these hemangiopericytomas. Now they're solitary fibrous tumors. We have one or two of those who've responded to pathopathy. But I would see if a resection could be done, and that would be my first choice. And I wouldn't bet that you will see a change in diagnosis. I just would say it's a very significant possibility that when the whole thing is out and they look at it, they give it a different name.
Even among expert soft tissue pathologists presented with the same slide set and asked to establish histologic subgroup and grade, that the discordancy rate runs anywhere from 25 to 40%. And that's been reported repeatedly over the past 30 years in very good peer-reviewed publications like JCO.
Okay, thank you very much.